Welcome into our overtime segment here at SportsSource.tv. I'm joined by Chuck Cavaleris, Mike Griffith, Josh Ward. I never introduced myself. I'm John Pennington, but I figure you know that if you're watching SportsSource.tv. This segment brought to you by Blue Smoke Cigar. You see it right there. They do a terrific job in terms of having if you don't want to smoke cigars at your house, if you want to smoke a cigar and relax with the TVs on and the leather seats, other people who smoke cigars, you just don't want to hear about, it stinks up the house. If you don't want to sit out in the backyard because you're going to get eaten by mosquitoes, this is a great place to go. It is a terrific lounge, Caldwell Lounge, an official Caldwell cigar lounge. Private lockers, so if you're looking for the drink to go with your cigar, you can keep a bottle of scotch there in your own private locker, your own smokes in there as well. They've got a card room. They've got golf simulators, Chuck.
Yes.
It's a good place to go. Blue Smoke Cigar, located it's right off South Peters Road, between South Peters and the Rafferty's right there. You can't miss it. Big sign. Check them out. Good folks. They're, of course, associated with Smokin' Joe's, who I've known they were, I think they might be one of the original sponsors on the show. Well, actually, they joined us. This will be our 15th season, and it will be their 14th season. Right. So they got on for our second year. So Smokin' Joe's, good people. All right. What we want to do in this segment, everybody's talking about Butch Jones' hot seat around here. And I thought, well, we could rank guys in the hot seat and talk about who's on the hot seat. I thought, let's take it in reverse. Who isn't on the hot seat? So what I want to do, and I've already filled that one spot in right here, and I'll get you guys. We're going to run through all the coaches. I want to see. Move my McDonald's cup. There we go. I'll knock it off. Spill it. All right, there we go. Nick Saban, no heat at all. He could have a terrible year, and they're not going to fire him. I think he's done enough, even if they went 0-12. And here's the deal. We're talking about no scandals, okay? We're just talking about on-the-field stuff. So, obviously, if somebody gets involved in a scandal, they can go. But my question is, who is on a hot seat coming into the year, do you think? Who is only on a hot seat if they collapse? Who do we think could go only in the case of a collapse? So I'm going to be interested to see where Butch Jones goes here. Is he truly on a hot seat, or is he just in trouble if they have a losing record, 5-7 or something, or 6-6? So let me start with the West, and I'll fill this in. You said, Mike, Brett Bielema. You thought this could be his last year. You said that during the show.
Collapse.
Okay, with a collapse. Okay,
because I don't think they're going to be very good.
Well, Jeff Long, his athletic director, came out and said people need to understand it's more than just wins and losses here. There's what you're doing with the program. I thought he made it clear that Bielema, to me, he was closest to Saban in terms of most untouchable. But if you're saying collapse, okay, that's different than.
Kind of like they had in their bowl game when it against Virginia Tech, which was one of the biggest collapses you'll ever see.
Yeah. We agree that collapsing for different coaches
is different.
Are defined differently.
Certainly.
Like a collapse at Vanderbilt would be different than
exactly. Yeah.
Tennessee or Georgia or Florida.
But I think Bielema could go, but only if it's a terrible year. His guy's giving him almost a perfect vote of confidence.
To me, the most obvious hot seat would be Kevin Sumlin. I mean, his athletic director's already called him out. And, good start and then poor finish to the second half of the season. Big time hot seat there.
How about Hugh Freeze? Doesn't he have to?
I was going to do this in order so we don't forget, guys. But okay.
Blazing hot seat.
Hugh Freeze.
On fire.
And his is because of the NCAA stuff. But I think because of that, it makes him more susceptible. Bad year, we're going to cut bait. I think they're going to wind up having to cut bait anyway. But he's on the hotter seat. Freeze. Okay, what about Gus Malzahn? I mean, they are kind of impatient down there, and you've got the whole Alabama right down the road thing. I'm not so sure he is in hot seat instead of collapse, because he also has huge expectations.
Exactly.
This year. What do you get? But I'll let you guys make the call there. So you guys can only get fired if it's a total collapse, or if he just falls short of really competing, he could be gone. What do you think?
I think it could be gone because, I mean, I'm thinking back to when Auburn played LSU last year, and it was like a very close game. The team that loses that game, I almost felt like their coach was going to get fired, and it was Les Miles. Yeah. I mean, on a reversal or a real freaky play. So I would put him on that hot seat. I mean, I know some of these Auburn fans.
Yeah, I think that's probably right because I think there's a record that would look pretty respectable for Malzahn that would not be okay with Auburn fans.
Right.
Respectable on the outside. So yeah, I think he would be on a cooler hot seat.
Yeah, and I guess where all these guys pay for the greatness of Saban, everybody is getting ramped up expectations because of what Saban does to Alabama. It's doubly bad for Gus Malzahn because he's in the same state and his people hate Alabama. So he's got. I think the Auburn seat is always going to be one of the hottest in the league as long as Saban's doing what Saban is doing.
And if he gets beaten out by Ed Orgeron, I think that would tick off a lot of Auburn Tigers fans as well.
It would take a collapse for Orgeron after year one, so we'll put him over here.
Okay.
Mullen, I think it would take a complete collapse. He's John Adams wrote it this week. He is the best coach in Mississippi State history. A lot of people forget. They think, well, worst program in the SEC has always been Vanderbilt. Look at the numbers. The worst program in SEC history is Mississippi State. Traditionally, they are worse than Vanderbilt and Kentucky.
Didn't Jackie Sherrill get him to the SEC championship game?
They had major ups and downs, though, and he also left them on probation. So Mullen has won more games over a longer period of time than anybody in school, over a certain amount of time than anybody in school
Well, that's why
history.
he's the number 23 coach in the nation, John. You pointed that out.
I don't think he's great. I just think it would take a lot to.
Well,
I
you
think
could
you're
make
right.
the
And
case.
he didn't have down years like not 3 and 9 kind of down years like Sherrill had, and he also didn't leave him on
You
probation.
could make the case he's done more with less than any other coach in the SEC right now. I mean,
Dak
considering
Prescott
He
looks
had
pretty
a-
good to me. I mean,
Well, he recruited him and coached him, didn't he?
yeah, but he's saying he did more with less. I think that was a pretty good quarterback.
Okay, name me 5 other guys that have been at Mississippi State under Dan Mullen.
Well, they've had a lot of offensive linemen and DBs, but
Okay, my point exact. Dak Prescott was very good.
Anthony Dixon was pretty good.
pretty good.
All right, you make your point.
Yeah.
It's wrong, but you make it.
Eric
And here we go. With Mullen, I would say he's closer to no heat than the hot seat. Dan Mullen, Mississippi
Yeah.
State. And so I think collapse is right.
Yeah,
but if
well,
it-
I should have put collapse closer. I've got these listed the wrong way. It should be
Right.
no heat, collapse, hot
right.
seat.
But if it were going one way or the other, I
Yeah.
think he's closer to being in the no heat category.
As long as he beats Ole Miss.
Yeah, that's a
As
big.
long as Cam Newton's dad stays
So that's your West. You got no heat on Saban. You got only a collapse for Bielema, Orgeron, and Mullen, and then you got hot seat. I'll make the middle the danger zone.
I like
Danger zone.
the artistic side of John.
All right, so the autistic side. Okay, that's just the rest of the hosting. Florida, Jim McElwain.
I think a little bit of a hot seat, and I'll tell you why. Because even though they've won the East, they've gotten kind of
They're-
struggled against Florida State. They've struggled in the SEC championship game. And the fans down there are not happy with just winning the East. And I think there is a hot seat there because he was brought in to jazz up that offense. And they
don't-
haven't done it.
Yeah, they don't like his offense. And remember last year when they went to the SEC championship game, he came out with a little slap at the fan base. That's another reason he could wind up in trouble because he's gone. I think Jones ought to just dial it back and just not really say much of anything. He kind of goes at the fans. I mean, he does it quite a bit. That can burn you pretty good if you don't provide. But last year for the SEC championship game, he said, "Well, it's a shame. I'm glad we're going to get to go because it's good weather. Team will enjoy it." And it was just kind of fans aren't buying tickets. Okay. And they've become spoiled. I mean, they went 11-1, went to the Sugar Bowl under Will Muschamp, and nobody bought tickets. So, and I'm exaggerating, nobody, but it was a small crowd. I think Florida could be putting McElwain in some heat because of the way he interacts and the way they want to win. They can't just win; they have to win pretty. I don't know. To me, he's in between
Yeah,
collapse
he's in
and hot
between.
seat. Where do you go? You go hot seat.
I go hot seat.
I say collapse.
Collapse.
I'm with you, John. Right in between. I'd put his name like with half his name on each side of the
And
line.
now I've drawn my little line, so it's going to mess that
You
up.
can
But
do that though. You can write it
I
right in the
can
middle.
do that. You're right, and that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
I like that.
But I mean, if
Thank you, Mike.
there's
That's a good
some
idea. There we go.
if there's some discord there when you've won back-to-back division titles, what's it going to be like if you finish second, third, fourth? That's
If you
when
do,
the
yeah.
seat gets
Exactly.
hot.
That's a great
You
point,
know?
Chuck.
Kirby Smart, collapse, isn't it?
At this point,
Yes.
I mean, you had some people that were disappointed last year because they said, well, you better win right away. He's
Yeah.
left you a stock team, and instead of winning 9, which people predicted you won 7. But I think it would take a collapse to fire a guy after 2 years. Stoops at Kentucky. I think that would take a collapse. I don't think he's on any kind of hot seat, but the way they
I'd say
finished,
no. I'd say no heat.
no heat at all.
Yeah, it's Kentucky. They don't care about football.
Well, not as much.
They fired coaches in the past. Come on.
But if he's recruiting well, and the program goes 5-7.
You know,
I just don't think he's under any heat. I don't hear
the other thing that protects him now is he's got a buyout that's. I mean, he basically, they'd have to give him Louisville.
He may be between.
Okay, it's not going to be Stoops-Savania.
He may be between no heat and hot seat. To me, I mean, just
Well, no heat and collapse, you mean?
well.
Yeah, because with hot seat, I flipped the chart like a fool.
I think Mike might be correct on this. I think no heat might be right with Stoops.
It's closer to
And
that.
7-5 last year, beat Louisville. That was huge for
that
him.
was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Stoops, and here's the thing. He has that great, exciting offense that Kentucky fans loved
Right.
under Hal Mumme. So it's like, if we're going to lose, at least let us lose 45-44.
Sure.
Okay, Barry Odom at Missouri, I think that would take a collapse. They've had, I don't think that's no heat.
No
too.
heat.
He's new, and with all that school has gone through,
Yes.
they can't afford to fire anybody else, I don't think,
right.
with all the nonsense surrounding that program and how much turmoil they've been in.
And what about Mr. Scowface himself,
Muschamp.
No heat.
I would say no heat.
No
that's
heat
what I
whatsoever.
had on the list. Starting, that was the only one I could. Or starting.
I'm
out,
a
I
little
thought
surprised
at
we
first.
got this many people here with no heat.
Well, I
We're
mean,
gonna add
look at
another
the
one here in a minute.
situations. It's Saban, and it's Kentucky, then it's Missouri. I mean, you got to look at the situation.
All right, where's Jones? Hot seat or collapse? Or like McElwain
I
is
think
in
he's
between?
with McElwain. I think he's right in between because I think we don't know how the fans will react, and because we don't know how the season's going to start. I mean, if they lose to Georgia Tech and Georgia, and then
That's
they
right.
get beat by
Florida,
Alabama
you know.
and Florida, you
See,
could
I
be-
think you're going to open 2-3. That's my prediction, and people are going to be screaming for his head, and that's when it becomes tough for John Curry. That's when you're going to figure out he's going to have to say one way or the other if he's in the corner or not when you start getting a bad start, if that's how it works
I think
out.
they'll open 4-1. So that's just me.
That is
I
just
would
you.
slide him over to collapse. That would be where I would have him.
Okay.
I'm fine if you want to leave him where you wrote him in the middle, but if they go 5-7, that's a very hot seat at the end of the year. Good luck.
Yeah, I think that. See, and where I'm questioning is collapse to me is a losing season, 5-7.
Yeah.
I think he's probably gone. 6-6, depending on how it happened.
Exactly, depending
I
on
could see.
how.
Here's where I guess what I'm looking at is I could see the fans wanting one thing, and Curry wanting something else. And so to me, I'm putting him on that line.
Well, and
where
then-
are you, Chuck?
I think you've got
Hot
it
seat
right
or-
where I would have it. In between, depending on how things go. I don't think it's as hot as a lot of fans may think now. But like Josh says, I could see it getting pretty.
Again, you have when you see people talk about it, we put a poll up. People are happier with Butch Jones than you would think. The people who are unhappy with Butch Jones are the loudest people. So it seems like, oh God, everybody hates this guy. And then you talk to people, it's like,
No.
oh, I hope he does okay. I'd like to see him stay. Okay, well. All right, so here's the way we broke it down. And I went ahead and just put Derek Mason there. I thought we would have Mason and Saban. Because let me turn this around. All right. Over here is the collapse. These are the guys we think that it would take a real nosedive to get rid of. Bielema, Orgeron, Mullen, Smart. In between the nosedive and, yeah, you better perform this year or you're in trouble. In between that, you have McElwain and Jones. They're somewhere on that line. Sumlin, Freeze, Malzahn are baking. They better win this year. Over on the other side here, I thought that was going to be Nick Saban and Derek Mason. So, when we look at Stoops, Odom, and Muschamp, you see no way. Even if they went 0-12, you think all three of those guys are safe.
Well, now that's
Then you're in a collapse mode.
that's beyond collapse.
Well, that's what I'm talking about with no
yeah,
heat. Yeah.
yeah.
That's like the end of the world there.
No heat means you literally could do anything. And I think Saban has that kind of deal. I think Mason has that kind of deal. I don't know that. I think Stoops is I almost need a fourth category.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, you do.
Well, what about Odom? You said they're not going to make a change, even a
Yeah,
first-year
but
coach.
0-12 is pretty.
Yeah, pretty drastic.
I should have had a fourth category, but
Odom's
my
in a
board wasn't
strange
big
spot
enough.
because Missouri and its athletic department are in such an odd position right now.
Yeah, and Stoops is also hated by that huge buyout he's got. I mean,
Right.
you remember he started off slow last year, and there were people saying we got to get rid of him. You're not getting rid of him. I mean, literally, you'd have to cede him part of the state. So anyway, that's interesting. The point is there aren't many guys that, in my view, there aren't as many guys that are feeling no heat as we had there. I think Saban and Mason are the only two that are truly untouchable, if you will. I think Stoops, Odom, and Muschamp, it would take a instead of collapse, we need like collapse and calamity. They would need complete apocalypse.
Losing
Yeah,
season
really,
and
yeah.
collapse.
But don't you
0
think
and 12
this
that
is,
year.
this is different? This comes out differently than if we had done it 10 years ago?
Yes.
With the coaches in the league?
Yes, I think you got many more people that are in trouble. I think
Yeah.
10 years ago you'd have been much more patient before the Saban thing.
Yeah, and before,
Before
yeah,
Saban.
absolutely.
but
Changed the
before
rules.
to me, the average head coaching salary went up to over $4 million a year. The fan bases expect something in return for that, don't they?
That's a
and
lot to do with
everybody
it.
can't go out there and,
And
match
what,
that.
and what I think is funny about that, I've said this before, I don't want to get too far off topic here. We're winding down. But what I think is interesting about that is there are a lot of guys who watch games on TV, don't donate, don't get tickets, and they complain about the money he makes. That's BS. But it's not your money. So the whole, you're right. People complain, oh, he's making $4 million.
But
if you're not giving any of it, you shouldn't. What's your say in that?
Yeah,
It's my view. It's like, look, if you're donating money or you're spending for a ticket and it's huge price, what John Curry talked about, we got to fix the entertainment value, make that better. Okay, if you spend the money and do it, I get that. But there are a lot of people. You're right. It ticks people off with how much money they make, but that's just greed and jealousy, I think, more than I'm giving my money. I want more return on investment. That's legit in my view. If it's just, I don't like anybody that's making money. All right, that's stupid, my view.
yeah. But it certainly
happens.
raises the expectations.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everybody that's making $4 million isn't going to win their division.
Right, that's right.
No, you can't even come close to that in the SEC. I mean, Butch Jones is what, 7th, 8th?
Yeah.
in the league
He's
in pay.
8th. So you got 2 divisions you can win in the SEC. That means you got 6 coaches that are making $4 million or more who aren't going to win their division. Okay, so it's a little. So that's why I'm getting at it. It's kind of silly to sit there and say, well, if you're getting paid this, you have to produce. Not everybody is going to produce.
Well, exactly.
Yeah,
Simple
before
math,
Mi-
you can't.
before Miles left LSU, every coach was making $4 million in the Western Division. So you were guaranteed to have a last place team with a
Make
coach
a-
making $4 million or more.
That's right.
See, that's why you're right. I'm not arguing with
Oh, I
you.
understand. I understand.
But
I understand.
that opened the door to let me bitch about something
Wow.
that I feel is bitchable. I just think that's one that doesn't make much sense. There we go. I got my computer had got into its screensaver mode. That means, John, shut up. Let's end this segment. We will see you next Sunday at 11 a.m. on WATE 6 for the Sports Source. Thank you very much for joining us, and thanks to all of our sponsors throughout the show, and of course for Overtime here with Blue Smoke Cigar for bringing you the show each and every week as we roll toward season 15 of the Sports Source. All thanks to you. See you next Sunday.